Hello, lovely people. It's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. Back to my regular vlogging schedule. I think Slowvember was a success, don't you? Bleh, can't talk. I think it was a success. I had lots of wonderful comments about how you were all enjoying it and getting some ideas for different kinds of crafts. And I certainly had fun with it. So I'm glad you did too. So I've been thinking about what to do in December, and I have dived into the knitted vest because I want it to be ready in time to wear for the period around the December winter solstice, because it's kind of Christmassy. So this hat was my swatch. You're going to have to excuse the blue nails, I'm afraid. I put fresh colour on my hair the other day with no gloves on. Let me just grab the label for this yarn. Oh my god. Okay, so this yarn is Karen Anniversary Cakes in the Peppermint Plaid colorway. As you can see, it's a stonking great ball of yarn. It's a kilo, 1,000 grams or over 35 ounces, and 941 meters and over 1,000 yards. So you can make a lot with this. A whole sweater, a whole blanket. I'm making a vest. In order to get swatched for that vest, I made a little basic square beanie. No crown shaping, just did a few rounds of ribbing straight in the round, and then 3 needle bind off the top. And what I might do is, with some of the little bits of yarn that I've cut off the ball, I might do a bit of duplicate stitch on there to make a little design on there. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet. So once that was finished and I knew my gauge, which unfortunately was a little tighter than the pattern asked for, I got into the vest itself. Now I cast on probably 3 times. Tried casting on about 3 times for this because I didn't leave a long enough tail. So I knitted a few rounds, and then I thought, this is so huge. It's looking really, really big. Because I had done a bit of math based on my gauge, and I had figured out that I should make the XXL, which is like the 5th size or something. And I did some rounds of ribbing, and I just thought, oh, it's looking too big. It's going to be really voluminous. And I didn't want it to be voluminous. I wanted it to be fairly close fitting this time. So I ended up making the XL, and knowing that it's going to be quite a small amount of ease, shall we say. But this is the start of it. Loving it so far. Absolutely love it so far. It's really squishy and soft, and I like the way the colors are coming out. This is using the 6.5mm needles to do the ribbing, and then unusually you actually decrease some stitches and then start doing the stockinette on 8mm needles. And I think the thinking of that in the pattern is that you don't have the ribbing sucking in. It's supposed to be fairly straight, and so the stockinette part around the bust just carries on going fairly straight with the ribbing, and then there'll just be a round neck with some ribbing on it, some ribbing around the armholes. So it took me probably 3 sessions of ribbing to get that done. That's 6.25 inches. And now I'm at the point where I can do 1 round where I do my decreases and move on to the stockinette on the bigger needle. So I'm optimistic about that. I think it's going to be lovely. Going to be a fun thing to wear. And I might add some duplicate stitch to the stockinette parts of the vest as well, possibly, depending on how it looks. Let me just show you the rest of the ball so you can see what colours are coming up. So after the red, we've got some light blue coming up. And then I think probably it's back to the gingerbread. So yeah, there's actually 2 shades of the gingerbread. I thought it was all the same. But this part that I started with is quite a bit lighter than this one. And then you've got the pink, you've got a couple of different reds. There's a brighter red and a softer red. And then the light blue and some white in there just to break it all up a little bit. So I think it's going to be amazing. I cut out this much from the ball so I could start with the gingerbread at the hem of the ribbing. And so I feel like I could probably use some of the blue in there to add a little bit of something patterny to the hat. Maybe. I had a little bit of a struggle with a sewing project this week. Now, I'm sure there's loads of you out there who make bowl cozies and absolutely love it. I've probably made tons of them for friends and family, or maybe even to sell. And you probably think they're a walk in the park and you can do them blindfolded, but I've made a handful of them in the past and I never did enjoy it. But there are a couple of sizes that I have that fit my IKEA bowls really, really well. One is a fairly wide size for a wide, shallow bowl we've got from IKEA. And the other one is smaller for a smaller but deeper bowl. And it's so handy to have. I didn't make them in order to go in the microwave because the batting wasn't 100% cotton. My thread wasn't 100% cotton. It was just the fabric I used that was cotton. And so, I made sure that my family, if they decided to use them, knew not to nuke them in the microwave along with the food. But you can at least take the hot bowl out of the microwave, plop it in one of these things and carry it off to the table and not burn your hands on it then. Or you can sit watching the TV with it on your lap without burning your legs. So I wanted to make a couple more in that size, and I had to guess at the size it started out at because I don't know what instructions I used way back then. I went to Notches Sewing because I know she has really good instructions for a lot of things, and I will link to that video underneath as usual. And so the size she makes in her video is this one. It starts out with an 11-inch square of fabric, I think, and a 10.5-inch square of batting, or 2 bits of fabric, 2 bits of batting. And that came out a good size for my wider IKEA bowls. And then this one I had to guess at. And I think I started with 8.5 inches of fabric in that one because I needed that smaller size. Still don't like making them. I always find it's a bit of a hassle. One of the problems I had was that when I put my batting, which was cut from the template, onto the fabric and then folded my darts, my batting wasn't lining up correctly with the edge of the darts, so that was a mess. Then when I fold it out and do the top stitching around there, I find it really bulky and I don't enjoy that. And then at the end, she says to do the X across the middle. I didn't bother with that because I just felt like these projects had been going so badly up until that point that if I tried to do an X across, I was probably going to get a major pucker in there somewhere. And really, it doesn't matter. You don't need that extra stitching along the middle. So now that I've shown you these, I'll go and add them to my pile upstairs and we can use them. I think this fabric was in a pile of stuff that a friend gave me, so it didn't even cost me anything. So if they hadn't turned out, it wouldn't have been a great loss. But yeah, not microwavable, but still functional. I was very glad to see my friend yesterday. I gave her her gift with the scroll and the tree and some Satsuma hand cream from the Body Shop in that little drawstring bag I made with the gnomes in. And thanks to Jerry, who sent me another way of making a drawstring bag that looks even faster than the one I made, with a bit less faffing, I think, So I'm going to try that out. I'm definitely going to try that out. I'm not sure if it's going to be today because I have a couple of other things I want to do today. And, you know, I only have so many hours in the day. Thankfully, I have the day off. Housework is done. Playtime now. So in return, my friend gave me a lovely little ornament that I can put a thread in to hang up on my tree when I get it later in December. It's a kind of a multimedia thing with beads and fabric and some fabric painting involved and some buttonhole stitch around the edge and also some other stitching on the back as well. Oh, I see. She's embroidered her initials on the back. I didn't see that last night when she gave it to me because I didn't have my reading glasses on. The other thing, I was talking about wanting to make a lot more toadstools in different media for December. I made a few in Slovember with a rock and some air drying clay, and I have a crochet one. And so when I said about toadstools, she gave me a rather lovely ornament or decoration, which comes from Denmark. She brought a few back with her the last time she was there. So it looks like this when it's in the package. And if you're anywhere near my age, you'll probably know that we used to have a lot of Christmas decorations made out of paper that used to do this. You pull it open and it makes a three-dimensional thing. But this one doesn't have a little clip to hold it together. Oh no, this one has fancy magnets in it. It's awesome. Isn't that amazing? It's just so perfect. It does stand up. There's no way to hang it, so I guess it's just going to have to live on a tabletop somewhere. But there's two little magnets, one in the stem and one in the top. And the funny thing is, it makes me jump every time because as soon as you pull open the magnets, it just pops shut again. So fun. So I'm loving that to add to my toadstool collection. She also gave me a couple of owls. Now she's been laid up for the last couple of weeks and she probably will be laid up for a few more weeks yet because she's had a foot surgery. So she's been knitting owls to give as gifts, and she said I could take two if I wanted, and I couldn't decide between two of the ones that were in the pile on her table, so I brought home two of them. This one is a beautiful turquoise, which, as you know, is my favorite color. She tries to get yarn that's an ombre or a variegated or a self-striping or something so that when you're knitting, it changes color and it's not just a solid. But isn't that beautifully done? She was telling me how she worked it out, and she doesn't use a pattern or anything. So I'm afraid I can't give you a link. And there's the greeny grey one. And you see how the seed stitch segued into the grey there. Brilliant. They're so tactile and soft and cute. So those are going to have to go out somewhere along with all my other winter decor. I'm going to turn this camera down now onto my sewing table because there's something I want to try. One of the videos I watched on YouTube this week was K3N Cloth Tales, Catherine, and she was doing something really simple that she said was inspired by somebody called Emily Dubious. I haven't checked out Emily's channel yet, but I will. And it was a really, really simple idea for doing something arty and mindful and fun. So I thought I'd give it a go. I'm going to add it to my fairy notebook. Oh yeah, I trimmed my leaf prints down with pinking shears and I've just tucked them in there too because it seemed like a good place to keep them. That was fun. So I'm going to find a good page. Not sure which one it's going to be yet. Maybe this blue one. Maybe I'll tuck these stiff prints. It's very stiff paper, that speedball printing paper. Tuck it towards the back, and maybe I'll add to this lovely blue wash paper. But first I need to get my pieces of snippings. I bought this book at a thrift store a while back with a plan to try that, what's it called again? Momigami, where you take the paper and you scrunch it with oily hands or with konjac or something, and you make what almost feels like fabric. It was a pretty failed experiment, in my opinion, and I'm not planning on doing it again. But I thought I would use this to find my little pieces to stick into my notebook. Now, the premise of this is if you're out and about, you might find things that are different colors of the rainbow. So you might find something that's red, something that's green, and you just collect things as you go on your daily walk. Or in my case, it's just going to be things that I'm clipping out of this book. In Catherine's case, she did clippings from a supermarket flyer. I think it was a Waitrose supermarket flyer or supplement, and she was just cutting out appropriate coloured things from in there. And this is Okanagan art, so it's images from the valley where I live in Canada. Very, very beautiful. So because this only cost me a couple of dollars, and because I've already started tearing it out, I don't mind snipping bits out of it. So I am going to go through, and I think I'm going to look for each colour in the rainbow order. So I'm going to look for something that's red. And I'm just going to hand cut, without worrying about accuracy, a little square. The art in here is so beautiful. Isn't that beautiful, with the dolphins and the turtles? Amazing. Trying to find something red. Ooh. Okay, that's a possibility. There's some red flowers there. Oh, this is even redder. I like that too. I can't figure out whether that's red or orange. Well, there's some strawberries. Okay, I think this red is probably going to be the one. What am I cutting on the back? I think we're okay. I really like it when people come up with art ideas that are inexpensive and simple, and you can just grab something like an old book from the thrift shop or a supermarket flyer and cut little squares out of it, arrange them nicely on a piece of paper or in a book, in a journal. Maybe add some words or some other embellishments, and there you have it, like a little bit of art. And it didn't cost you much, and it gave you some nice quiet time. Red, orange, yellow, green. Green, green, green. Some lovely greens in there. That's a beautiful green as well. I did invest in a little bit more air dry clay yesterday. Ooh, that's a nice green with a little bit of texture on as well. So because I'm thinking of making more toadstools for the Christmas season, I'm saying Christmas season, I don't want to be exclusionary when actually I embrace the winter solstice really more so than Christmas, but I just default to saying Christmas. But I want to include everybody who has a festival in December And I wanted to make some toadstools that I had seen in a video. Now let me see. I can't remember what the person was, what the person's name was, but it was a really, really simple way of making a toadstool by just sewing together a couple of little circles of fabric and adding, what did she use? I think she used corks, adding a little cork for the stem, but I think I would like to use the air dry clay for a stem, or maybe I might use a cinnamon stick. I have a few of those too. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Now, apparently this Emily Dubious, who has done this before, likes to include pink in her rainbow. So instead of going indigo, what is it, Boy G Biv, so indigo violet, she goes purple, purple, pink, blue, purple, pink, which I definitely approve of. I don't think we have to be too rigid in our rules when we're making art, do you? So I hope all you guys are enjoying your December and aren't feeling too overwhelmed by holiday preparations or anything. Let me know if you're making decorations of any kind to hang on a tree or in a window or whatever. I'm thinking that this year I might invest in a few little candles, you know, the little tea lights, but battery operated ones, because then I can include them in my garland decoration on my windowsill without worrying they're going to burn the house down. Yep, I think it's this purple. This is the one. Because burning our houses down is not in the plans for this year, okay? Pink. Oh, there's a bit of pink here. There's also rather, oh, yes, rather nice flower. As there's so much text in here, I feel like rather than trying to figure out my own wording, I could pick something nice out of here. I think this is perfect. It says in all the colours. So each page says beauty is in all the colours of the rainbow and all the radiance from the sky, life resounding from the artist's canvas. I like that. I'll probably leave the beauty is out, but I will definitely cut that part out. I don't know, or maybe I should include it. Otherwise it doesn't make a full sentence, does it? And believe me, this grammar police person doesn't like things that are not full sentences. I'll see if I have room for that. Crash, crash. Now, if you saw me make this, you'll know that there's a twig in the spine and it makes it kind of hard to open the book and have it stay open. So let me see, what can I put on there that will hold it down? We'll hold it down with my acrylics. Now I'm going to trim this down as much as possible so that it'll fit in. That's barely fitting. A bit more trimming. We're going to get started and see how it works out. Beauty is. Not going to have much room left for my colours, am I? I'm going to end up trimming my little coloured pieces, my swatches, down quite a bit, I think. But I expected that. I cut them big on purpose, knowing that they were going to end up smaller. All right, now I have to fit 7 things in there. So we're going to go small, and maybe I'll save the little offcuts for something else rather than waste them. I'm really glad I found this book today. I had forgotten I had it. And I was going to start using some bookmarks that I had picked up from the library and was saving for some art project. But this is way better. Uh-oh. Doesn't look like a lot of room, does it? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Purple. And pink. Who knew this fairy notebook was going to become so useful for doing other art projects? I had no idea. There, all done. Little bit of paper cutting and sticking. So satisfying, so simple. A child could do it. But as adults, we need to take time to play too. The other idea I want to try today, as I said before, is the sewn toadstool. I have a little bag of cinnamon sticks from the dollar store, which is probably the cheapest way to buy them. They're all a bit long, in my opinion. I would prefer it if they were maybe half that length. I don't know how easy it is to cut them in half, and if they split when you try and cut them. But this one is a little bit shorter than the rest, and that's the one I'm going to go with. I'm going to use that as my mushroom stem. I have a needle threaded. I've got this plastic lid that I'm going to use for my template. I'm going to use this fabric here for the underside. Oh, look at that. It's just the right size, coincidentally. And now I'm getting caught up in my thread. Get off me. There we go. I'm going to cut 2 circles and then sew them together, back to back, well, wrong sides together, I should say. Do let me know if you've seen any good mushroom or toadstool craft ideas online in different materials, because I think it would be so cool to do a series of toadstool crafts and end up with a whole windowsill of them made with different things. This is going to be the top. It seemed like it was perfect. It's red with white snowflakes on. So it should look kind of toadstooly, shouldn't it? You just pin them together, or not, and sew around the outside. There's no reason why you shouldn't do this on a machine. For the video I saw, they did it by hand. And really, by the time I set my sewing machine up, I could probably have finished the hand stitching anyway. I'm going to do a back stitch because I feel like a running stitch wouldn't hold things together well enough. True to the Stitches and Slapdashery form, this is a really rough piece of work. It's not very smooth. And I know that you guys are all shouting at me saying I didn't leave a turning gap. There's a reason for that. All you need to do is you pull the layers apart, if you can. There we are. And then let me just mark the center first so that I'm cutting in the middle here. There we go. I just made a little dot in the middle. So when you pull the layers apart, make sure they're separate so that you don't accidentally snip through your top layer. Do a little snip that way. And snip that way. And then you turn it right side out. Pretty fiddly. But it's only a very tiny project, so it doesn't take long. So now what I need to do is go grab a little bit of polyfill to stuff it with and some hot glue. I may well have made the hole a little bit big. We'll worry about that after I've done this step. So this should not take much stuffing at all. I rather like the idea that a mushroom at this time of the year smells a bit cinnamony. I made my first fruit cake of the year, or of the winter, the other day. Because we're currently off the refined oils, I made it without oil, but I used aquafaba instead of the oil, which is, as many of you may already know, chickpea cooking water. Now, chickpea cooking water, if you've ever seen the water in the can of chickpeas, or if you've cooked chickpeas and noticed that the water goes really gelatinous, that stuff is amazingly versatile. You can use it instead of things like egg white for meringues and that sort of thing. And yeah, there's tons of uses for it. And I saw somewhere that you can use it to replace oil in recipes. So I made this fruit cake with some aquafaba instead of the oil, and the rest of it the same as usual. And it was delicious. In fact, it was better, probably better the next day once I'd allowed it to cool. I was so excited about having fruit cake that I had my first slice while it was still warm, which probably wasn't ideal. But once it had cooled and the next day I took some to work, it was even better. So I definitely recommend trying that if you're trying to cut the calories. Honestly, I worked out how many calories were in 150 mils of sunflower oil, which is what would normally have gone, not sunflower oil. Yes, sunflower oil. I would probably have normally put sunflower oil in there. And instead, by using the aquafaba, we saved ourselves 1,275 calories or so. So not only was it more heart friendly, but it was less fattening as well. And it didn't taste any different. So I was very pleased with that. Don't want to overstuff it because, that would look more like a puffball or something. I think that's going to look good. I'm going to have to try and stick this in such a way that it's not too raggedy. I definitely should have made smaller slits in the bottom of there. I think I'm just going to fill this hole as much as possible with hot glue. Okay, that was a big blob of it, and then I'll use the narrower end of this to stick that in there. I should probably try and stick the fabric around the sides of this as well. I wonder if I can push it against the stick a bit. Oop. I'd like it to wrap around the cinnamon stick a little bit. Let's just try that again. Put a little bit more glue on it. And I'm running out of glue stick already. And then just push it down and around. This is for me, so I'm not too worried about making it look absolutely perfect underneath. My hot glue gun keeps wanting to tip and fall off the table. And I don't want to do that because there's a box of fabric right underneath there. Yeah, it's looking a little bit frayed where I snipped. I'm going to go and get another glue stick. For some reason, I can't find any more glue sticks. I'm pretty sure I had a few left in a package, but a trip to the dollar store will fix that. I was going to go to the dollar store anyway, sometime this week. So there we are. I have another toadstool to add to my collection. One little toadstool to add to the collection. And it smells nice too. I have to think about how to make a base for that. when I was talking to my friend yesterday, she said you could make it with the cinnamon sticks and then perhaps make a base of the clay and push the cinnamon sticks into the clay and make a little toadstool forest, which is a good idea. I think the person in the Instagram video was using corks, but I'd like to use what I have ideally. This does smell nice. Can see my stitching because it wasn't very close together. Probably should have used red thread. And also I could embellish the top with something, couldn't I? I like the idea of making fabric ones and maybe putting some beads on the top. So many options. Endless options. So that's me for today. I'm hoping to use a brand new editing software this time. If you were with me during Slovember, you'll know I had interesting problems with the one I was using. I was using Microsoft Clipchamp, and it was fine for a year. And then suddenly it told me it wanted to upload to Google One, which I didn't want to do. And then it started getting glitchy on me and throwing me out partway through the editing. And it was the last straw the other day when I got halfway through editing something and lost all my progress and had to do it all over again. So I'm now going to DaVinci Resolve, which is a very powerful but free software for editing movies. It doesn't have songs on it. So if I want music in it over my little clips of speeded up crafty stuff or whatever, I will be using YouTube's audio library for the first time ever. So that'll be interesting. And my lovely son, my youngest son, he downloaded it onto his own computer and learnt the basics on it purely so he could help me get started on learning it myself. It's definitely more designed for people who are familiar with things like keyboard shortcuts and things like that, whereas I just like something really, really user-friendly. You know, it's just like, oh look, it says there's a little scissor tool right there. Boom, I can click on that to cut a clip or something. Whereas I might be using Control B now for example. And it's going to be quite the learning curve. But we went over the basics yesterday, and I think I can do it. So if this video turns out okay, you'll know I figured it out. Thanks for being here and watching and spending time with me again today. I'll see you again soon for something else. Bye for now.